making it to the land of milk and honey. The children of Israel sang songs to the Almighty in celebration of his delivering them from Pharaoh. And the songs were something like this. I'll sing songs to the Almighty 'cause he is so tough. He brought those bad boys down into the sea. The Almighty's everything to me. He's a man and I will praise him. He's the one and I'll lift him up 'cause he brought old Pharaoh down into the sea. The Almighty's everything to me. From the Red Sea, the children of Israel headed into the wilderness. The journey was long and hard. The children of Israel spent half their time grumbling about Moses. We should have died in Egypt, they cried. We're hungry and tired. Where's this land of milk and honey? Aaron told them that by fussing all the time, they weren't really fussing at Moses, but straight at the Almighty. The Almighty heard them too. Look, just before dark, you'll have plenty of meat, and in the morning, I'll supply you with bread. So quails came in the evening, and in the morning a fine dust-like stuff was on the ground. This honey-tasting food was called manna, as it came from the Almighty. Moses explained to them that this nourishment could be eaten, and told them to gather it up as they needed it, 'cause it was from the Almighty himself. Hard choices. It seemed that the more the Almighty blessed them, the more the children of Israel wanted. They fell back on the same old song. We should have stayed in Egypt. You brought us out here to die. We want out of here. And Moses was beside himself. God, what am I to do? These folks are out of control. The Almighty then told Moses that he would speak to him from a large cloud, and people would believe even more that the Almighty talked to Moses. Don't let the folks up here on the mountain, or I'll have to waste them. If a brother even touches the mountain, you've got to stone him to death. Tell them don't sweat it, or they're out of here. And many days later, the Almighty came down with thunder and lightning. It was a sight to behold. The Almighty spoke to Moses so that the people could hear him, and it was truly a magnificent sight. The Almighty asked the priests to come up and make themselves holy. Then he gave them commands that would help make the deal complete. The commandments. I am the Almighty, your God, who brought you out of Egypt when things were tough. And then he told them, don't put anyone else before me. Don't make any carved objects or things that look like what's in heaven or below. And don't bow down to these things like they're anything heavy. Not ever. You shouldn't diss the Almighty's name, using it in cuss words or rapping with each other. It ain't cool, and payback's a monster. Remember the day of the Almighty, which is the seventh day. After you work 6 days, give the seventh day to the Almighty. You shouldn't be taking nothing from your home girls or home boys. Give honor to your mom and dad, and you'll live a long time. Don't waste nobody. Don't mess around with somebody else's old man or old lady. Don't go around telling lies on your home buddies. Don't want what you don't have or what your home buddy has. It ain't cool. When all this was said and done, the folks were scared out of their wits. They figured it was better that the Almighty talk straight to Moses instead of them, because it was too heavy for words. So Moses went up into the smoking, thundering clouds alone. And the Almighty told Moses, look, kid, tell the folks down there I don't want no gold or silver altars. Pure earth, that's me. All natural. Nothing touches it. Pure and simple. Rules and regulations. The Almighty believed that things would work out better if there were rules to live by. So the Almighty made everyone promise that they would study and obey the laws, because it was more than cool to do so. And for obeying, the Almighty promised to take care of them. Next, the Almighty asked for 3 feasts a year. Moses told them, obey my man, and he'll see to it that there's plenty of food and water, and no one will get sick around here. The Almighty sealed the deal himself, letting the children of Israel know that he would be with them forever. Through Moses, the children of Israel sealed the deal as well. They agreed to do all that the Almighty dictated. Moses then sealed the deal wholly by building an altar right at the foot of the mountain. He put 12 big stones around it to stand for each tribe, and then he made a burnt offering. Later, he headed up the mountain again to have a little talk with the Almighty. Moses was up on that mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Long nights on the mountain. While up on the mountain, the Almighty talked to Moses about giving. "Speak to them about giving me an offering, willingly, from the heart, without reservation, so that they could be on the one with my program." Now, throughout Moses' time up on the mountain, the Almighty continued to tell Moses what should and should not be done. And he made sure that Moses understood the real deal about everything. And Moses was up there such a long time that the brothers and sisters got bored and restless. People thought that Moses was simply up there on Mount Sinai, chilling with the Almighty, forgetting all about them. So they got Aaron to take their gold jewelry and stuff and make a golden calf for them to worship. Bad idea. They forgot that the Almighty had eyes in the back of his head and paid attention to everything they did, even while rapping with Moses. And he was not pleased one bit. "Get down there with those silly folks, Moses. They've just made my blood boil." When Moses saw what had been done, he was so mad he threw the tablet the Almighty had written on at the brothers and sisters. "What have you done?" screamed Moses at the Israelites. I can't leave you alone for 1 minute. This is too much." And to Aaron, "How could they talk you into something like this?" And Aaron answered, "You know them, Moses. These people are hell-bent on doing what they want. How was I going to stop them?" Moses was too hot for words. He had to work the plan for the Almighty. The next day, Moses went to make amends with the Almighty so that he might forgive the rest of the folks for what they had done. Moses begged the Almighty to have mercy on these pitiful brothers and sisters. "Look," he said to the Almighty, "you promised to take us to the land of milk and honey. That's cool. But seriously, if you ain't going to be with us, even though we're a sorry bunch of folks, don't let us leave here then." And the Almighty promised that the land would indeed be filled with milk and honey, but also warned that the children of Israel had to really be cool with him if they wanted things to be righteous. Then Moses went back on the mountain to rap face to face with God. New tablets were made up again, and all the Almighty's commandments were written, so that the deal was made again. The Almighty gave the laws to Moses, and Moses was to go tell the children of Israel. In his hand, he held the very word of the Almighty himself on stone tablets. But the children of Israel were kind of scared to come near him. Even Aaron was a little scared. But Moses called to them and told them not to be afraid. He laid out the promise of the Almighty and his rules. When Moses came down the mountain, his face simply glowed. But since his face was so bright, he had to cover it with a veil in order to talk to the brothers and sisters of Israel. The deal of the century. As the children of Israel prepared to go to the land of milk and honey, they made offerings to build a church where they could worship. They dug deep in their pockets because it would please the Almighty. And the Almighty scored big with the brothers and sisters. He really cleaned up. The Almighty told folks to work hard 6 days of the week, but the seventh day belonged to him. And he was righteous by them, filling them with glory 24/7 all the time. The end of the book of Exodus. May the Almighty bless the reading of his word. The third book of Moses, called Leviticus. And now, O Lord, this man of God who breaks the bread of life this morning, shadow him in the hollow of thy hand. God's trombones, James Weldon Johnson. An offering for everything in the book. The meeting house was up and running, and the children of Israel seemed to be on the good foot for once. So the Almighty gave orders to Moses about what offerings to bring and how to bring them. "Tell them," says the Almighty, "that when one of them brings an offering, it is to be right on." And there were all different kinds of offerings to be brought to Aaron and his sons, who were the priests, and offerings had to be just so. Aaron and his sons received their calling. The Almighty took Moses aside and told him that it was time to make Aaron and his sons real ministers of the people. Moses was to take the new garments, a basket of unleavened bread, and then gather all the brothers and sisters and go to church. No problem. It was done as the Almighty ordered. Everyone kicked back and waited for Moses to tell them what they should do, which he did. And Moses laid it out for them, telling them that to do this was right on with the Almighty. The acceptable, the unacceptable. It was important that the children of Israel have the rules laid out for them in a way that they could understand. It wasn't enough that they were hip to what was right and wrong, but also those things that were crude or unacceptable, clean or unclean. All about getting down. The Almighty was serious about what was expected of the children of Israel regarding sex. It was a bad thing to do the wild thing without a blessing from the Almighty. You had to be hitched. And the Almighty didn't want folks peeping on people they had no business seeing naked. It was especially uncool to get down with any animals. Yeah. And the Almighty was serious about this, 'cause the penalty was simple: death. The Almighty didn't want kissing cousins getting hitched. And brothers weren't to sleep with their mothers. Granddaughters and daughters and half-sisters are out of the question for doing the wild thing. Just as your aunt or your sister-in-law. You can't take these sisters as wives either. And the Almighty was down with his laws, giving them to Moses to give to the children of Israel. Ain't no business like the Almighty's business. Now, it's important to remember that the Almighty wasn't playing around about how to deal with him. "You need to be on the one with holiness," says the Almighty. And he told Moses to make sure that the children of Israel knew the score. The crops were to be brought in and given to the Almighty first. And this is with all crops. Gonna follow the rules too. The Almighty wanted his priests to be tougher than the children of Israel. He expected more from them because they accepted the offerings of the children of Israel. Celebration time, come on. The Almighty was pretty serious, insisting on saving some time for him. He said, "Tell the children of Israel, these are my celebration times. They belong to me." So Moses set forth the days in which the people celebrated with feasts for the Almighty. These are the feasts. The Sabbath. Every brother and sister should work 6 days. On the 7th day, they should give the Almighty his due. No work is to be done on the Sabbath. Passover. There are special times for a brother and sister to celebrate the Almighty's grace. He saved the children of Israel while he wasted the firstborn of the Egyptians. At the twilight of the 14th day of the month, Passover is celebrated. Brothers and sisters should eat unleavened bread on the 15th. The Feast of Firstfruits. When the Almighty blessed what brothers grew in the ground, he expected them to place their offering to him with much pomp and circumstance. The Feast of Weeks. After Passover and things were arranged for the Feast of Firstfruits, it was party time. Brothers and sisters thanked the Almighty big time, because without him, nothing would grow. Feast of Trumpets, Rosh Hashanah. On the first day of the 7th month, trumpets would sound, calling brothers together to worship the Almighty. During the celebrations, no work is to be done. The Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. After the Feast of Trumpets, the Almighty told Moses that on the 10th day, the brothers and sisters of Israel were to make an offering of fire. But more than that, it was to be a chill-out day. No work or brothers would risk the Almighty's anger. The Day of Atonement was a day to be forgiven. the Feast of Tabernacles. On the 15th day of the 7th month, the Almighty ordered a Feast of Tabernacles, where the brothers built temporary shelters to remind them of their time in the wilderness. It was also a chill-out feast since no one was to work. Taking care with a little TLC. Moses was told by the Almighty to take care of things as ministers should do. Aaron was given special duties so that the place of the Almighty was given lots of tender, loving care. Also, on Sunday, the minister was to take 12 loaves of bread and put them in 2 rows. Special spices and oils were sprinkled between the rows, and then Aaron and his sons chowed down on the bread just like the Almighty told them. Helping Israel fly straight. Every 7th year, the Almighty made certain days special for getting down with the Almighty. A special Sunday church service was required by him to celebrate with him for all he had done. "Look," said the Almighty to Moses while up on Mount Sinai, "you gotta get folks to take a rest for the new land every 7th year. That means do nothing in the 7th year. Chill out." And the Almighty explained that if brothers and sisters took care of things right in the first 6 years, it would be a cinch to rest in the 7th. The Year of Jubilee. The 50th year was also started out with a special Sunday service and was called the Year of Jubilee. The year started out on the Day of Atonement, when people came to ask for forgiveness. Slaves could be set free. Land could be leased for 50 years until the next Jubilee, and debts were cleared. It was a time for setting things right. It was a time when the poor could receive extra help. Slaves would be freed, and a brother could find relief. And the Almighty asked brothers and sisters to celebrate all the chill-out days so that it would be right on for a long time. It was important to the Almighty to know that the brothers of Israel would keep his word and do as he asked. If the brothers didn't mess up, it was right on. For not messing up, he promised to be with them forever. The Almighty said, "Look, Israel, if you can do this, walk in my ways, follow the rules and keep my commandments, you won't have to worry about nothing. From nobody, not ever." The end of the book of Leviticus. May the Almighty bless the reading of his word. The 4th book of Moses, called Numbers. Oh, I want to be in that number when the saints go marching in. When the saints go marching in. Take a number. The Almighty spoke regularly with Moses out there in the wilderness, and he decided it was time to count up the brothers and sisters of Israel, to make a record. The Almighty told Moses, "Count up all the brothers who are over 20 and old enough to go to war." Then he ordered that they be listed in their tribal names because of their kinship with the son of Israel. From each tribe came a leader by a vote of the people. Then Moses gave a list of the Almighty's rules and instructions to the brothers so that they would know how to take care of things according to every man's place in that group. For the crime, do the time. When Moses talked with the Almighty, he did his best to listen to what the Almighty was putting down, because the Almighty didn't like jacking folks up for their sins. For instance, lepers were unclean and had to live outside of town away from everybody. But if they were lucky enough to get clean and they followed the law, they could come home again. And when a brother did something he knows ain't right, it ain't at all cool. So the Almighty put some awesome rules into effect to help a brother get through the troubled times. A brother's got to do what a brother's got to do to square things with the Almighty, because the Almighty always had a way out. The Almighty's justice was swift and fair because he wanted the brothers and sisters of Israel to do the right thing by him and each other. So rules were given to Moses, and everything connected to that rule was told to Moses so that he could tell the brothers and sisters of Israel. Then the Almighty spoke again to Moses and said, "Tell Aaron and his boys that when he blessed folks, he is to say, 'The Almighty bless you and keep you. He makes his face shine upon you and is cool with you. The Almighty lifts his spirit on you and brings you peace. And it was done as the Almighty said. The Almighty laid down the law for the head of each tribe of Israel. And these instructions he laid down to Moses so that he could tell the brothers who headed their family tribe. The Almighty was going to be especially hard on the leaders because he gave them this awesome responsibility of watching over their brothers and sisters. Moses then turned his attention back to the Almighty and said, "It is on the one, Lord. Let's go." Grumbling can lead to trouble. Despite all that the Almighty had done and was doing, the brothers and sisters of Israel still complained a lot to Moses. And this put the Israelites on the Almighty's bad side. Even the manna that the Almighty sent to keep them from starving wasn't good enough. Complaining usually freaked Moses out. But this was the last straw. These brothers needed some serious talking to. It was hard on Moses when folks didn't believe him. And even when one thing cleared up, another thing seemed to come back to shoot him down again. Why me?" cried Moses. "I'm sick of these tired brothers always complaining. Lord, I need help." The Almighty told Moses, "Get me 70 brothers of elders of Israel and bring them to the church house." And every one of them was blessed at that meeting with the Almighty, including 2 brothers who kind of stayed in the background, but the Almighty could see them and didn't forget them. When these brothers bragged to everyone about how good the Almighty was, the others wanted them to shut up because they didn't think it was right. "Who do these brothers think they are?" they complained. But Moses wasn't having it. He knew that the Almighty's hand was with these brothers and that he was pleased. He told those grumbling dudes to shut up because they didn't know what they were talking about. Kinfolks can be a pain. Moses was still having a hard time with folks, especially every time he went up to talk with the Almighty. He kept expecting more of his brothers and sisters than they gave up. Even Aaron and Miriam spoke against Moses because his wife was Ethiopian, and they turned to folks and said, "Look, is Moses the only one the Almighty speaks to? No, I don't think so. He speaks to us too." And the Almighty heard this. The Almighty asked for a meeting at the door of the church. He said to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, "If anyone is called to be a prophet, I go to him directly in a vision and speak to him in a dream. But I ain't gonna do that with Moses, because he's a right-on brother. I talk to Moses face to face. So tell me, Miriam and Aaron, what's up with dissing my boy Moses?" And the Almighty fixed it where Miriam wouldn't be running her mouth again too soon. But it wasn't for long, and very soon all was forgiven and things got back on track. Taking a peek. The Almighty had promised the children of Israel that they would live in a land flowing with milk and honey. This land was Canaan, which he had promised to deliver to them. It took a few years for the brothers to get their act together, because on one hand, they were afraid of the folks who already lived there, and on the other hand, they were pig-headed and stubborn as mules. But enough was enough. Now it was time for the brothers and sisters of Israel to clean up their act big time, because it was almost time for the big blessing. And the commandments and judgments of the Almighty were laid out for every Israelite, brother, sister, and child. The Almighty wanted them to remember that he brought them out of bondage to a land flowing with milk and honey. It was he, the Almighty, who had the power. And it was to him alone they owed their loyalty. The end of the book of Numbers. May the Almighty bless the reading of his word. The 5th book of Moses, called Deuteronomy. The children of Israel did dwell for 40 years in the wilderness, and when they had fixed themselves up sufficiently, they went to the promised land to rest. Memories. The children of Israel stayed out in the wilderness for 40 years before they were allowed to go to the promised land. They had a lot of hard lessons to learn, 'cause they were often dissing the Almighty in ways that would make him mad. Now the Almighty thought it was time he made good on his promise. Moses was the Almighty's chosen brother who was given the task of bringing the children of Israel out of Egypt. Although Moses had their best interest at heart, they often broke his heart in two, causing him and the Almighty a lot of pain. Now the children of Israel were right on the threshold of the promised land, which the Almighty pledged to them long before they were born. For the Almighty was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his hand was in everything that had anything to do with them. And even though they were willful and sometimes stubborn, the Almighty loved them as only a father could love a child. Preparing for the journey. One of the first things the Almighty did was appoint tribal leaders. There were a lot of brothers and sisters around, and this was the best idea for keeping things together. He expected that his leaders should be on the one with him, but more so, they should be fair in all things they did for the children of Israel. The Almighty warned, "I've been there for you. Now be there for your brothers and sisters." Laying down the law. In order to be a strong nation, the Almighty knew that obedience made you stronger, not weak. He laid down the law for the ministers because he didn't want them messing over the brothers and sisters. And the Almighty took care of his boys because they had a big job keeping the children of Israel in line. The land that was being given to the children of Israel was filled with brothers who didn't follow the rules of the Almighty. And he was hip to that fact. So he ordered the children of Israel not to fall prey to the fast way of life. You see, the Almighty knew that the fast life would be a real pull for the children of Israel, but he raised up a prophet with Moses. And when Moses died, he was right there with someone they could depend on. He knew that a strong prophet made a strong nation. A promise is a promise. When the Almighty promised the Israelites a land flowing with milk and honey, he delivered. He also laid down a law on how they were to keep this new crib holy. And while he commanded the people to do all that he had said, he also gave them boundaries so that there would be no property disputes. And then he gave them the laws that would police them while they were living in Canaan. And Moses went out to the brothers and told them, "Look, the Almighty has whipped butt for you and made sure that you had clothes on your back and food in your belly. And when he helped you beat those guys to a pulp, he also let you have the property. So you need to thank him, okay?" And the Almighty was pleased. Finally, the children of Israel were going to enjoy the real deal that he had promised to them. Moses' final days. Moses was not going over with the children of Israel to the promised land, so he asked the Almighty to let him at least see it. "I know that I don't deserve to see it, but before I die, let me look at it." And the Almighty took Moses high up a mountain and let him see it all, 'cause he knew that Moses was going to die soon. And also, the Almighty let Moses see it 'cause he really loved him and knew that Moses loved him too. For one thing, the Almighty chose a new leader, Joshua. Since the Almighty was going to destroy anything in the way of the children of Israel's happiness, it was important not to interrupt the flow of things set up by Moses. Moses brought Joshua before the brothers and sisters and told them, "The Almighty is with you always. Be strong, and don't go getting flaky on him now that the promise has been fulfilled." And then he told the children of Israel that they were to review the law every 7 years, so that even the children born later would know how to act. "By giving you this wonderful gift, you gotta know the Almighty loves you," said Moses. "Don't squeeze yourselves in a corner again by not doing right." So Moses goes up Mount Nebo alone. Moses dies. The children of Israel were sad because Moses had been good to them and put up with a lot from them too. And there he looked out over the promised land with the Almighty. Then he died. And the Almighty himself buried Moses somewhere up there in the sky. And no one to this day knows where Moses is buried but the Almighty. But now Joshua was their leader, and the Spirit of the Almighty was with him. Even though Joshua was picked by the Almighty, there was no one like Moses, because he was the only one who had ever talked with the Almighty, face to face. The end of the book of Deuteronomy. May the Almighty bless the reading of his word.